without a partner, ladies like his sisters. He ignored the fact that his own failure to marry someone who could serve as a chaperone for them might also impact their social success or lack thereof. "For your information, Lord Hoter," Monteith returned, "I danced with at least 5 ladies, and now I am resting my tired bones, rather than sprinting to the card-room as my less noble spirit would have me do. Oh, where's Winterson?" The Duke and Duchess of Winterson had become good friends with Alec early in the season, through their investigation of the Egyptian Club, of which Alec had been a member. Theirs had been a rather hasty marriage, but to his delight they seemed blissfully happy together. Winterson and Monteith had served in the campaign against Napoleon together, and were often to be seen surveying the crowds at these Ton entertainments. "Keeping watch over his lady wife," Monteith said with a frown, "and intimidating young swells into paying court to her cousins." Alec felt an unfamiliar pang of jealousy. He'd been considering the possibility of marriage as a means of curing his ennui, and the Duchess of Winterson's cousin, Lady Madeline Essex, was high on his list of potential candidates. Curvy, blonde, and quiet, Madeline would make an excellent Viscountess, and her easy manners would endear her to his sisters. But if Monteith beat him to the punch, it wouldn't matter whether his sisters liked her or not. "How is that working?" he asked, careful to keep his tone neutral. "Not too well," the taller man grinned. "I don't think Miss Shelby or Lady Madeline care for being managed by their cousin's husband. Took quite a bit of convincing to get Lady Madeline to dance with me, and that was only grudgingly done. I do not think the lady cares for me." Something in Alec's gut unknotted. He had come to admire both ladies over the past few weeks, but he had no wish to compete with his friend as a rival for Lady Madeline's hand. He was quite sure he could hold his own, but Monteith could be charming when he set his mind to it. Things would be much better if Monteith set his sights on Miss Juliet Shelby, the Duchess of Winterson's other cousin. Slim and fair of complexion with deep auburn hair, Miss Shelby could have been the toast of the ton, were it not for an accident during her teens that had left her with a pronounced limp. Alec had been partnered with her at a card party some weeks ago, and found her to be a sensible and witty young woman. She was not one to suffer fools gladly, and he could only imagine her annoyance at Winterson's interference. If he guessed right, she'd much rather have spent the evening at home working on one of her compositions for the pianoforte. "On the other hand," Monteith continued, "Miss Shelby and I had a delightful conversation speculating over the identity of the artist everyone is chattering about. She thinks he's probably some unknown trying to gain the spotlight. I think it's probably some chap with a flagging career who wishes to raise speculation about his work." "Il maestro, you mean?" All of London had been engrossed with learning the identity of the mysterious artist who had begun showing his controversial paintings a little over a month ago. The gallery owner claimed not to know, as did the few who had purchased pieces from the show, and it was generally agreed that the longer he kept his identity a secret, the more intrigued the public would become. "Who else?" Monteith said, with something like disgust. "I blame Byron for all of this ado. He swans about with his dark looks, spouting poetry and seducing women, and now every other fellow with the least bit of artistic inclination thinks a foreign sobriquet and risque art are the short-cut to celebrity." "Yes," Alec reasoned, "but Byron didn't keep his identity a secret. He makes sure everyone knows it's himself he's writing about." The other man grimaced. "Just wait. Il maestro will have a grand unmasking as soon as he's whipped the ladies into a sufficient frenzy of curiosity." He smiled. "All except for Miss Shelby, that is. I think a surfeit of chatter about that blighter is what sent her over the edge." "What do you mean?" Alec asked, his brow furrowed. "Is she unwell?" He did not like to think of Juliet ill, and it was the duty of a good host to ensure the comfort of all his guests, of course. Monteith's glib tone turned serious. "I think her leg might be paining her a bit," he said, "and of course her harridan of a mother refused to allow her to take the carriage home." On that point Deveril and Monteith were in firm agreement. Lady Shelby was one of the most beautiful women to grace